Hello, sir. Welcome, sir. AJB, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
So, thank you for joining with us, sir. Good evening, students and faculties. So, today we are connecting IGNNOVATE workshop. So, this is the first day of IGNNOVATE 3.0. So it's a series of webinars. So today we are going to see the startup opportunities in CSE, IT, MCA related streams. Okay. Okay. Uh, Today we have engineer A.J. Balasubramanian sir. He's one of the alumni of the prestigious institution, the College of Engineering Gindi, Anna University, Chennai, and he's having more than 20 years of industrial experience in both IT and healthcare industry. And he's also a director at Agilix Healthcare, and he's a mentor of Anna Incubator, Anna University, Chennai, and he's former general manager and head of TBI, Technology Business Incubator, BIT, Chennai. He's very much interested in promoting entrepreneurship and innovation culture among the nation. Okay, so especially he promoting so many startups in and around Tamil Nadu, both the students as well as alumni. Today we have the wonderful resource person in the AGB, sir. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining with us, sir. So you can start, sir.
Thank you, Shaktivel, for a great introduction. I'm happy to join here. Before I start, how many people are joining here, Shaktivel?
Sir,
are they all from engineering or MCA first year, second year? Like all the years are mixed or only?
Yes.
All the
years mixed, sir. So the participants available in both Zoom and YouTube live, sir. So YouTube live irukanga, Zoom irukanga, sir.
Okay, so let's start the session. So I'm going to share. Can you enable me presentation? Yeah, sharing of the presentation. I'm not able to do it.
Yes, sir. You can share now, sir.
Thank you. One second. Okay. Hope you are all able to see my presentation. Okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about giving you a perspective about how do you start an IT company. I mean, as soon as you graduate or even when you are a student, or what are the various opportunities that are possible in the IT industry. So you all might have seen, a lot of IT companies, today, especially in India, in the consumer space, you see a lot of IT companies coming up with the mobile opportunity coming. The bandwidth is easing because everywhere you are able to use the mobile. So mobile prices have come down. So because of that, there is a huge adoption of the information technology for various businesses. Now, one thing is that there are a lot of opportunities, but all these opportunities also are requiring the entrepreneur to be smarter than what they have to be initially. There are many opportunities which used to be earlier, which were easier to take and then run with. Nowadays there are many opportunities, but if you want to be really very successful, I think you should be very, very strong in technology foundation. Now, having said that, there are still opportunities for everyone at a average level where you can still run some companies. So most importantly, as computer science, IT, and CSE graduates, what you have to know is when you want to start any company, you have to first identify what is called as a problem solution space. A startup is not about like just you have just an idea that you have some technology that that will work in the real world, so you can start a business. It is not like that. There are many technologies which you can use, and this technology you can take it up and probably use it for some applications, such as, for example, you can develop a website you are capable of. But developing a website or a mobile app, can it constitute as a business? Maybe or may not be. It is not possible that because one technology that you can definitely convert that into a business. What is required to start a business is that you have to start thinking from the point of view of a problem that you want to solve for your potential customer. Why are businesses existing? Businesses are existing because a business's prime purpose is to serve any customer that they are going to be benefited by the solution or product that the company is going to offer. Now, unless you have a proper solution that is wanted by people, that if you can create and then sell it at a value, the business will not be complete. So the first prerequisite for anyone to be successful in business is actually to, first of all, identify a problem that you can solve using technology, and then develop that technology, and that make that technology easier to use, make the technology affordable. That means the technology should be priced right. It should be affordable, means cheap or low cost, and you should also be able to distribute the technology across various people so that many people can use. Now you all see that, you all know already that you have a mobile phone. So whatever apps that you are downloading into your system, so every day you are using a lot of with your smartphone, you are downloading certain apps, and even though you may have a lot of apps within your phones, out of these many apps that you have, only few apps you are using very, very frequently. Now, why is that? These few applications, the mobile apps that you use, is frequently used compared to the other app, because these frequently used apps are giving you some kind of a solution, or it helps you do a job. So therefore, in any time when you really want to start a business, the first step is you have to focus on the problem or the pain point, what is called as a pain point. The pain point that is experienced by a customer. The pain point is the starting point. Now you must know, take for example, um, what is that you do with WhatsApp. Now earlier, before WhatsApp also, even though you did not have the same feature like what you have in WhatsApp, there was a solution called short messaging services, or SMS, or text messaging. Now the advantage of WhatsApp is you are able to use it in a mobile from anywhere. Similarly, you could have used it in the SMS also. In the SMS, the threads, or what conversation you spoke, were not very well organized, and also you cannot distribute an SMS to a group of people, and it used to cost you, the SMS used to cost you, for every single text message you send, you have to pay some money. And right now, if you see, WhatsApp has also added many features such as, for example, um, you have today video calling, voice calling, and all that. So this is virtually is a cheap mode of communication. Even you can talk to anybody who is abroad. Now earlier, even today also, if you are using a normal telephone to call someone who is overseas or abroad, you have to pay some money. Now all this makes WhatsApp a very, very powerful solution. The pain point is people could not communicate as effectively, so therefore WhatsApp became a powerful solution for customers. So that is a business that they have built. Now lots of people are using WhatsApp. Now WhatsApp has launched a business model around this group, and they are going to expand this. Now the single most important thing that you must understand is it is solved a pain point. The pain point identification is the first thing you have to do. You have to really look, observe around, and then see if there is a pain point that you can address. The second most important thing is, usually when you identify a pain point, that you are seeing that there is some problem to be solved, the problem usually would mean the customer wants to get a job done. This is the second point that you have to understand. I'll give you an example. So we all know there is a drilling machine that, there are drilling machines people are using, carpenters and electricians are using it. What is the importance of using a drilling machine? If you really look at it, the drilling machine is used actually to make a hole. The job that the customer wants to do is create a hole. So you should not define your solution in terms of just the drilling machine, but in terms of what is the job that people want to get done. Now, if you have a paper and pen, the job that you want to get down is just note down. If we have a Zoom application on which we are right now conducting this class, so what people want to get done is video conferencing. So this is what, when COVID came, Zoom was already existing as a solution, but not many people were using. But there was a problem, so people have to communicate across the world and connect with a lot of people. So video calling became very, very important. So immediately Zoom became a powerful solution that people have started using it. Now, this is how you should identify an opportunity. So whether you are an IT engineer or computer science engineer or a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer or whoever it is, so the most important point for starting a business is not necessarily the technology, but your ability to identify there are some problems in the real world. What are those problems? There is a pain point for people to not to do a job easily. That pain point you have to remove. And then when you remove the pain point, actually what is that the customer wants? The customer wants to get a job done. So in WhatsApp, you want to communicate. When you use a drilling machine, you are trying to put a hole. When you use an air conditioner, you want to cool the room. The job that you want to get done is cooling of the room. When you use a pressure cooker, you want to quickly, efficiently cook. So any product that you see in the real world actually will mean that the customer really wants to get some job done. So your goal is to help them get the job done easily. So instead of just assuming technology is very important, which may be important, but that is not the solution. The solution is to solve a problem that the customer face, and it is always manifest in the form of getting some job done. Now, having said that, there are some problem solution combination which are like vitamins, and there are some problem solution combination which are like aspirins, and there are some problem solution combinations which are like vaccines. Now, what are they? Let me explain. So today we are seeing, people are suffering from COVID. The coronavirus has attacked the whole world. Everybody is sitting at home and then are unable to really like go and do the job. Social distancing has been completely implemented, and the economy is really struggling because we are not able to perform our normal tasks. Now we see two things happening when it comes to solving corona problem. People are talking about, so you should have immunity. So what they say, for immunity you have to have this vitamin C, vitamin D, take zinc tablet or kabasura kudini or something like that. They are saying that this will build immunity to you. So this is not always an instant solution. So whenever you create a solution out of your technology, it should not concentrate on prescribing something or telling people, hey, you see that if you take vitamin regularly, you will get immunity. But how many of us do? For example, we know to be healthy, to be sound, we have to do exercises, we have to take some vitamins, we have to sleep properly. So these are all given, but we know this, but we cannot practice that as easily. So we skip them. But let's assume that you have a headache, you have a serious headache. So when you have a headache, the immediate thing that comes to your mind is, if somebody gives you something like an aspirin, so the tablet, headache tablet, because the moment you take an aspirin, within half an hour you are expecting some relief for you from headache. Now if I ask you to consume vitamin, take vitamin every day for several years, you won't do it. But when you are having a headache, most likely you are going to immediately pop one aspirin and put it and then buy it, use it. Why is that? Because the pain is more in the case of headache, and then the aspirin is an instant solution. Now then there is vaccine, which is now they are all developing. So vaccines idea is also very interesting, because if you do not do this vaccination, so you have a potentially big loss, including probably lethality. I mean, people can get killed. So of the three products, if you sell vitamin, if you sell aspirin, if you sell vaccines, which will sell faster and which is easy to sell? If you really see that, selling vitamin is not very easy, even though there will be still a market. But if you want to sell it very quickly, making aspirin or vaccine is the better idea. So therefore, always when you identify a product, focus on getting a product which is going to help the customer solve his problem immediately. That the problem should be so painful for the customer that they will like your product. So one of the problems that most engineers have is, they have a tendency to actually create technology which is very outstanding. They will talk about the technology, they will say that technology is great and this and that and all that, but finally, as far as the customer is concerned, his basic requirement is actually he want to solve a problem. If he has a painful problem, that has to be solved instantly like an aspirin. And or if there is a threatening problem like the COVID, there should be a vaccine which they will even pay a lot of money and buy it immediately. Tomorrow, if there is a vaccine for COVID, a lot of people, the entire world will buy this vaccine. So that's what we are trying. So therefore, before we go into technology, before we go into industry where the opportunities are, your mindset as an entrepreneur must start with this. What is the pain point? What is the job that the customer wants to get done? Can I make a product which is like an aspirin or vaccine? And sometimes you can make vitamins also as one of the products, but remember, selling of it is going to take slightly longer cycle, and it is not going to be very easy. Okay, so remember this. Now we'll go to the next slide. So the other most important thing is focusing on one thing. What we see is, how do I really get mastery of an area? Now, if you want to become a good entrepreneur, one of the things that you must remember is that you must focus on a very narrow, specific area, and then develop a lot of expertise in that area. You must know about the industry or the problem or whatever is the business that you are trying to solve, and then create a solution or a technology which will be useful for that particular industry. So without the knowledge in a focused way in one industry, one area, it is very unlikely that you can create a very impactful product. So when you are an engineer, you have lots of idea bubbling with lots of thought in your mind. The big problem for you will be like, you will not really know which of this, like many ideas that you can convert it into product. So you may be on the one hand thinking about, a mobile app. On the other hand, you will be thinking about, IoT based solution. The other hand, you may be thinking that you can set up a website. So this initial thought process for most of the entrepreneurs will be, it is always varied and you have lots of choices. Now, one thing you must always avoid is do not have lots of choices in your mind. So instead, try to understand one industry, one problem, and then go deeply into that problem and create a solution which is useful for that particular segment in which you are having deep knowledge. Now, how do you develop that kind of a knowledge? So next question comes that if you want to develop knowledge, you should have mastery about that area. Now, if you take, for example, one of the applications, I don't know, many of you might be knowing, some places it may not be available though, but you must be knowing about this application called Swiggy, a food ordering application. Why is this very valuable? Because people want to get food. I told you about there is a pain point, because if I'm sitting here in my house and I am not able to go out and I am ill, I cannot cook food, and I also have to do some work or something, so I'm not able to go out and then get food in a hotel. And when I go to hotel, the other problem is I'm not getting seat. My hotel which I'm trying to take food is in a faraway place. So these are all pain points for me as a customer. So instead, Swiggy has found out a method where if I pay a small transaction fee or a delivery fee, I'm able to, in the convenience of being at my home, I'm able to order food, and then I'm paying on the mobile app itself. Now here, for Swiggy to actually build this application, while technology is something which is very important, but Swiggy also has to solve many of the associated problems that comes peculiar or unique to the food industry. Now, what they have to do is, when they started, all these things they would have done. They should have identified, how to go and talk to a hotel person, how to make him upload all the food items that they have, how to take the photograph of the food item, how, if the price changes are incorporated, how do you incorporate it in the system, and how do you enroll. You don't have a similar, you have one app, the hotel person will have another app, the restaurant person will have another app, and the delivery boy will have a different app. Each one will have a slightly different interfaces. So for you to create all this technology, first you must understand how the whole food delivery system works from the point of view of the customer, from the point of view of restaurateur and the delivery person. And also you must know about how the payment gateways work, how to collect payment and all that. So first, the important thing is Swiggy did not concentrate on many things. They concentrate on food delivery business, and they figured out a solution by focusing on that one thing. Now that they've become very successful, we see them, but as a software engineer or anybody who is willing to start a company, your first approach should be to focus on one area. Usually, when you focus on one area, this is also called as a niche. The word niche is something that it is a very, very comfortable place for you, where you can stay and then be very powerful. So you are creating around that niche. It's a small market. Usually it is not a large market. Sometimes it's a small market, but for that market, you are doing a very good job. So that is why people call it as a market niche. So when you are in a niche or a small place, I mean small market, but which is not being served by others, when Swiggy came, there was no application delivering the food. But once Swiggy becomes successful and it is being used by many people, a lot of people download Swiggy app and start using it, and the market expands more than what they thought. So you have to consider one focused market. It could be a small market. You should be able to study that market very well, understand about the nuances of the market, and then build a product or service around that market. So this is very, very important. So if you see that focusing all over the thing is not a good idea, because you will not be effective. Focus on one thing, find out your specific advantage area, and then work on that area and be successful. So niche identification is the second thing that you all have to focus. So the third thing I want to talk about before I go into technology is follow effectuation, or in other words, there is something called casual model and effectual model. Many of you, when you start a company, you have a tendency to think that unless I have all these facilities, unless I have all the money with me, unless I have support from government, industry, bank, and lot of infrastructure, lot of people, I cannot start a business. So that is called that kind of thinking comes from a large industry's mindset. Take for example, if a very big company wants to start a telecom business. Recently you have seen Jio. The last few years they actually invested lots of money. They created the entire infrastructure. I ventured the business. But Jio can do it because it's a very large company. They have unlimited resources, access to people. But as a small startup person, your goal should be, you must do within your means immediately. You should not think that always only when I have all this I can start a business. So you never start a business everything in place. So what is meant by effectuation? So this model is called effectuation. What is being effective? Not worrying about what you cannot control or what you do not have. So the effectual model has got these three ideas put together. Now you must always ask a question like, what can I do? What do I know? What do you know, or what do you know? And what risk I can take? So in other words, the question is what you can do, who do you know, and what risk you can take. So these are three things. Basically, some people, you can do something, and you can take some risk. So you start with that. You don't worry about what you cannot control, what you do not have. So start with what you have. So that is the effectual model. If you really want to start a business, first of all, try to develop a skill. That is what you can do. I mean, if you can do something, like for example, if you are an IT engineer, if you want to start a business, the first thing you have to do is master one technology area. It could be a client server project, or development skill, or a mobile app development skill, or a full stack development skill, or you study about data science and then do analytics, or go and program an IoT, or program a microcontroller, or whatever it is. So you cannot do something which you do not know. So instead of thinking what business I should start, you should start thinking, what do I know? So only when you know something, you can do that. So your preparation must start asking yourself, what can I do? So if you can do something, it is good. If you cannot do something, depending on what you want to do, you must first go and acquire the skill in a deep manner. You should really become master in that particular area where you want to set up a business. Then like immediately you should ask the question, if I make this product, to whom I can sell this product? Now in that case, you should know somebody. So you should actually select the product or market such a way that the product or market is actually something that you have access to. You should not immediately, without knowing anybody, if you have to build all the skills with the limitation, it will become very tough for you to find a customer. So the first thing, then you have to always see who do I know, then what risk I can take. For example, some of you may come up with the idea that I want to immediately launch a rocket. Now I'm not saying you should not ambitiously have a big plan, But launching a rocket requires a lot of investment and the expertise also. For example, as I told you, what do you know? Do you know anything about rocket launching? So if you do not really crack that issue of what do you know or be ready, you can certainly learn. People will say that I will learn it and do it. But there is a limitation to what you can do. I mean, what you can learn after you start a company. So before you start a company, you should have built a reasonable competence. So that is something that you must crack it. Then depending on, you are in a place, like for example, you are in a place where you are seeing one particular industry in your city is requiring a digital transformation solution. The people are struggling because without digital transformation or without a digital tool, they are not able to conduct business properly. So your first attempt should be to solve a problem that you have already access to, that that you can solve. There are some people who will buy your product. So from there you start. So once you start that, then probably it is possible for you to start building a business around that. So the third thing is what risk you can take. The risk you can take is something, like if you can you actually, for example, when you start building a small application, so you may spend some money. Take for example, you are spending something on an Amazon cloud, or you are buying couple of laptop with you. I mean, you buying a laptop, or you are engaging one more friend as your programmer, and this person is asking you to pay some money for development effort. So can you spend this small amount, or hosting fee you have to pay? So the risk that you should take is something that you should be able to manage, for which you should be able to yourself mobilize funding. So if you can't mobilize that funding, if you can't manage to get that money from somewhere, it's not easy for you to build a business also. So remember, effectuation means, first of all, understanding what you know or developing the competence required to start the business. And then also see from your neighborhood and wherever you are, whether you have access to some kind of people or resources. Take for example, if you are within an university, recently the Anna University in Chennai, we have started an incubator, and there are multiple incubators existing throughout Tamil Nadu in many colleges. So this is something so you can go and approach an incubator, because you don't have to spend a lot of money. Don't worry about what you cannot control, what you do not have. Then you may be able to, you have some saving, or your father promises you, okay, I will give you 2 lakh rupees. So your risk taking propensity should be within that 2 lakhs, without completely burning the 2 lakhs. So you should invest 20,000, 10,000 and see some results coming. Based on the results that you get, then go to the next stage. So this is how real entrepreneurs build business. They don't have everything like all the offices required, number of computers, and your friends, everybody working there. You are a manager, you have an MD chair, and nothing will be there, because as a person who is starting, you are going to be left with very minimal thing that you can manage to get. So plan accordingly. So as I told you, it is not that there's nothing wrong in actually planning to launch a rocket, but can you manage to launch a rocket with your knowledge and with your investment capability? So if you do not have that capability, you should not always worry about. In effectuation, the rule is not only this, but also do not worry about what you do not have. You should not worry about what you do not have. And do not also worry about what you cannot control. So you should not blame government is changing the rules. So with this rule I cannot, because if only government changes the rule I can do this. Or unless somebody gives the loan, you go to a bank and approach a bank, probably the banker is not going to give you a loan. You should not say that simply, no, because the banker is not going to give me a loan, I cannot do business. So that is not the way effectual entrepreneurs start and do business. Now coming to this, in the IT canvas. So we call this, let me call this an IT canvas. So you all have seen lots of different types of IT companies, and in India we have a huge number of companies of different sizes and different types. So we can classify them into several models. Now you have what is called as services company. The services companies are companies which actually help other companies to get their IT work done. Now let's say I run a bank, or there is a bank. So the bank's business is basically to actually serve their customers who are going to be their depositors, or they're going to be the borrowers, or they are lending to buy some things like, for example, they may be helping people buy home or car or consumer durables, or somebody puts a deposit, and based on the deposit they take the deposit from the investors and then the customers, and then they lend it to another people at a higher interest rate, they earn some money. So the principal business of a banker is not to work on technology. So most of the companies which are in their core business, they don't want to develop this software themselves. So what they do is they identify another vendor, a company, and tell them, hey, we want these things, can you help us develop? Now there are so many companies like this. Banks are there, insurance companies are there, airlines is there, automobile companies, there's manufacturing companies there, and so many companies which they want to get their software developed one time, and for which they are engaging companies. These are called services company. So these companies, typically you have in India, you must have all seen companies like TCS and CTS, Wipro. These are large companies usually, and there are small companies also. So these companies actually have large number of people, usually wide pool of knowledge. They will work on many technologies depending on how big they are, how diversified they are. And they will also have additional services sometimes after the software is developed, because you see the large scale software is developed for a maybe 1 year period or something, 6 months period. Once the software is developed and deployed in the system, it is being maintained by some people, because software is running. So if there is a small bug coming, somebody has to come and fix it. The server is to be monitored, somebody has to be monitored. The services company engage in working on projects that are specific, have a definitive goal of, say for example, in a bank case, they want to develop a software to run the bank. So the banking core application, they call it. The core application will have all the features that is useful for running a bank. Now some companies, what they do is, instead of doing a project, they convert that a banking application into a product. So they name that product, so that instead of just like doing a project to one bank, they will sell it to multiple banks. So they can make a product and give it to bank A, bank B, bank C. So the same product, it can be installed in different companies, different banks. So that becomes a bank software, and it is called a product. So product, we also have other companies like Microsoft. The PowerPoint that we use now is Microsoft's own product, which is a product. So I am using the same product, PowerPoint product. You are also using the same PowerPoint product. Zoom is a product. The product everybody is using. So I'm using the same product. You can also use the same product. So similarly, so there are products companies, and then there are, like I told you, there are business process outsourcing companies. These companies are not essentially developing software or providing services of technology development. So these companies work in technology development, whereas BPO companies, they are business process outsourcing. Take for example a business process outsourcing. Let me explain you with an example. Now if let's say that there are a telecom company which has got the telecom switches, they have a exchange, and then they connect they have mobile towers everywhere, and then they run cables, and they activate the system. So when it comes to billing of the telecom billing, you get billing every time, or you have a recharge mechanism through which you can recharge for your prepaid and all that. Now what telecom companies do is, they do not create a business unit for themselves to manage this billing collection process and sending out reminders, printing out bills, calculating and all that. They tell some other third party company, which uses a common software which already been developed and deployed. And this third party company is a BPO company. So they will take this kind of a thing and run with it and create a service out of it. And this telecom company will pay to this BPO company some money. So it is outsourced, business process outsourcing. That is why I'm not doing my job. I am able to define the job that I want to get done. So I will give it to another company. So they put specialized people and they are able to manage and give me results. So for which I am going to pay. Then, you have mobile technology. So this is something which, you have in mobile also. You can either provide service or develop a product and a blend of service, like Swiggy. What we saw, they have core. The Swiggy's product is nothing but the app that they have developed, but around that they also have built a service business. So they use the mobile app, but it is a product because they have developed one product everybody is downloading. And the same thing, they have also, like I told you in the beginning, they are able to connect the various stakeholders, the restaurants all over the nation. And they have also gone and signed up with all the delivery persons, and they have a back office to monitor this. So they are a company which has got a product using mobile technology, and then they are servicing the entire stakeholders that they are serving, and they get paid for the transactions that they conduct on the via their mobile system. So mobile, if you are just a company which is developing only a mobile application, then you are like a service company. Like, somebody will come and tell you, please develop this mobile app for me. So you are going to tell him, so to develop this mobile app, I'm going to work maybe 100 hours. So it is going to cost you maybe 100 hours. You have to pay me every hour 1,000 rupees. 100 into 1,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees. So once you develop the mobile app, you give it to someone. So with that, your transaction more or less will be over. So you get only paid 1 lakh rupees. But whereas if you build a product instead of that mobile app, if you can use it for your own company, like Swiggy does, so you build an enormous business around that mobile app. So that is a difference. So you have to see that there is a product, there is a service, and then how do you blend the product and service, whether you are just acting as a developer who develop a product and give it to someone to use it and get paid for only the development effort, the hours you spent in developing, or you are going to run the whole business out of it. So you have to understand. So similarly, there are different types of application, IT applications, so which one can develop. And it can be, if you are developing it for yourself, there are two ways. One is you develop and give it to someone who uses it, and then they are going to pay you only some money for development. So you can also convert that same thing as a product. Instead of giving it to just one person, like Office product, which we use Microsoft Office, so you can sell it to many number of people who will all pay you money. So if you have to develop a Microsoft like Office like a product, it's going to cost you a lot of money to develop and support that. So what they do is Microsoft is selling this kind of products to millions and millions of customers across the world. So they amortize the cost instead of charging one person lot of money. So they are able to put the development cost to divide it into so many users. So they take us, for example, if I have to subscribe to Microsoft, it might cost about 400 to 500 rupees per month for me to use Microsoft service. Like me, there are maybe about 10 million, 20 million or 100 million people who are every month paying them that much money, about 400 rupees per month or so, for using of the Microsoft, which is making, Microsoft is maybe if 100 million people are paying 100 million into 400, you can imagine the amount of money that they can make. So that is the beauty of product. Whenever you make a product, you are able to amortize the development cost to a large number of users. So because you are able to make even more profit. So instead of being a service company, you can be a product company. So whenever you make a product, you make a product. Around that, you also have to build a service ecosystem. So that is something you must understand. Then, like today you have a lot of solutions in new areas which are coming, like IoT, big data, analytics and all that. The same thing applies to these models also. Now, if somebody comes and asks you to develop an IoT solution, take for example, so the IoT solution can be, you are having a burglary system set up in a factory. Now, the IoT system, a lot of devices are set up in the factory, and you are putting some motion sensor detector everywhere. If something happens in the factory, so alarm triggers automatically with an IoT, you will be able to dial up and then alert the owner or the security agencies. Now, if you do just one project for one company, that is a service. Suppose you are able to create an artifact that you can reuse in multiple factories, that becomes an IoT solution. So similarly, big data and analytics and all that. So big data is, like if you have an analytics engine, if you develop a software in which many different data can be put in, and then you can analyze, give them a result, that becomes an analytics engine. Or sometimes you will develop only an analytics engine for one company. Now, there are like this numerous opportunities. As I told you in the beginning, so it is very important for you all to, first of all, identify which area I'm going to work on. In this area, how can I make a difference? Whether I can solve a customer's problem. What is the customer's problem? And once you decide at what job the customer wants to get done, can I help the customer get the job done easily? For getting it done, can I understand the business or the domain that the customer is working? So you have to create a depth. Instead of working in a lot of places, you have to select a narrow area and then put lots of effort to learn about that area. And you must be also, as an effectuation, you should be able to yourself be able to do the work instead of telling what you cannot do. As a good entrepreneur, your approach should be to always find out what I can do, what I can learn, who do I know, what risk I can take. So if you start like that, then you will understand, you will get a sense of what do I start, which business I can start. So many a times the biggest challenge for many of the entrepreneurs is to first of all understand what is the area that I can specialize in, whether I have the skills to develop in this area and make a mark. Now this is very, very critical. So if you only know that you are capable of doing something in some area, then it makes sense for you to start business. So instead of always looking at what can I do in the IT industry, you must also look at the market which is emerging. For example, right now the mobile boom is continuing, it still is going to be there. The lot of areas, the future is going to be in the IoT and then big data and all that. Now, for you to meaningfully do work in the mobile or IoT area, you should first develop these skill sets. Just because you are an engineer, if you do not have enough skill set in this area, you cannot really successfully venture a business. So it's a two-way thing. But first of all, you must understand that identify a beautiful area, but also develop competence in yourself to actually develop the product or services, because that is the starting point. What do you know will determine which business you can enter, instead of asking where is this opportunity. Yes, if you know that there is an opportunity in the industry, definitely focus on learning that particular industry skills required, so that you can be ready to take advantage of the emerging opportunity. So we are seeing lots of opportunities. As I told you, there are still service opportunity. So if you are a service company, you should be very more horizontal. You should be able to develop web apps, mobile apps, client server apps, or you should be able to do some DevOps services or analytics or whatever. So generally, if you are you can go horizontal. Usually it is easy because service orders will keep coming, but you will not have tremendous margin. As I told you, you are paid for the work you've done. There will not be value multiplication. So if you want to identify a product and then work on that, better that you identify an industry which is requiring a solution for that particular industry, so that you can build a product for that particular industry and then sell it to more than one customer. The same effort that you put in developing one product, you can sell it to many customers and make a lot of money. That's the better idea. Or you can be some company where how do business processes work, and you develop a layer, or you employ a lot of people for which you will get paid for providing the service. So this is what you must understand. As I told you, always it is important for any entrepreneur to really understand that none of your business is complete only when you know technology. You should know the business domain, understand what business is. So if you want to develop a software for a banking industry, you should understand how the bank work. The banks have a system. You have what are the use cases in a bank? Basically, the bank will have, if a customer goes, they should be able to open an account, and then they should be able to accept money. When the money stays within the account for a long time, so they should be able to compute interest. Whenever the customer wants to draw money, you should be able to authenticate. And then, so this is, I'm giving you one example of a minimum example of how the banking knowledge is. The bank has got enormous knowledge. There are going to be government rules as to what compliant should be done in banking applications or banking software. So if you do not know exactly how this banking domain works, it is not easy for you to develop a solution for the bank business. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you want to really develop a business, or build a business or something in certain area, the first thing is not only knowing the technology but also understanding how the business functions. So focus on that. What we are seeing today is that I think a lot of the application development area, there's a huge requirement for full stack developers. So full stack developer means, earlier people used to do layered work. People used to develop the front end only. Some people used to develop the middleware. Some people used to work on the back end. So today, if you're a software engineer, if you're going to study software, try to understand what is full stack development. Try to learn every technology that is associated with developing a total application. So especially if you are going to be an entrepreneur, you want to be an entrepreneur, my suggestion is that do not focus on only one area as far as technology is concerned, because you do not know tomorrow which one of that you will be able to use it, because you should be able to architect the entire solution. So become a full stack developer. So learn about UI, learn about UX, learn about some middleware, middle layer, how the application works and all that, and then understand about a database. So for that matter, if you are working on IoT, understand about the hardware, understand about the software, understand about the sensors, understand about transducers. So these are combination of skills which you should know, because without knowing, it's not easy for you to build the entire system. So that is the emphasis here. Now, the other most important thing is, most of the time you cannot run a business as an individual. So it is important that you must have a team of people who are willing to work with you, who are like-minded. So start early on, start building a group of friends. You all can join together now itself, plan that you want to start a business. So that business you can take it up, and then build, even as you are a student, you can imagine something, build some prototype, try them out. Failing is not a problem. When you are when you are a student, attempting all this will give you a lot of experience in terms of how to do something. If you learn to do something, and even if you fail, the learning is very valuable. So focus on getting together, because increasingly it is very difficult for you to do everything as a single person in a business. Even investors, if you go to investors, ask them for money, most of the investors are going to ask you to come with some kind of a co-founder. You should come with a team. So unless you come with a team, they are not going to support you. So having more than one person as a founder of a company is going to enhance your chances of getting investment. So this is something you should understand. So the other thing what you are going to really see is, nowadays there are a lot of incubators. I told you about incubator. Let me explain what is an incubator. The word incubator comes from, you have this that eggs are hatched. Instead of hatching the egg through the hen, what they do is they keep it in a box, a warm box in the hatcheries. If you go to chicken farms, so you will find that they have what is called as an incubator, and then they will put these eggs in the hatcheries in the incubator. Based on the heat and warmth that they give, suddenly one day the egg will hatch, instead of hatching it through a natural process. So they are using incubator. The same incubator is also used in a similar context when premature babies, which actually are born, they are protected in incubator. The word incubator means a newly forming life form when it requires support system that's being provided by an incubator. So similarly, the incubators of businesses actually help the new businesses which are created by people like you, students and all that. The incubator manager will give you help, and the incubators usually have a space where you don't have to set up your own office, and then the incubators are usually attached to campuses. So you have, help from your professors, and then maybe you have help from students who can be kept in your businesses as trainee. They can work part-time, and you can also use the lab. And the incubators are giving you some kind of grant for development of some kind of a prototype. So use this incubator. As I told you in the effectuation model, don't worry that you do not have a lot of money. So look at what is available. So these are given in the marketplace. So therefore, learn about incubators and make use of the value of incubators, so that you will be able to easily build companies, instead of worrying whether will I get all the money. You won't get all the money, but whatever you get, you should really make use of it, and then build a proof of concept, and then move to the next level. So this is how it is. So if you really ask me, I think in this, we have lots of, very big canvas today. What all you can do in IT, it's got so many variations within IT, technologies, which is very difficult to even, bring about and discuss. But generally, what I would suggest you is that become a master in the area that you want to specialize, and then choose something which is actually is going to suit your strength. Or if you want to work in particular area, better acquire the skill. Let's say you want to develop an IoT based solution. The first starting point is, even before you identify which area within IoT you want to work and become successful, first understand IoT very well, and then go to an application context. How do I use IoT for a specific application in the real world? And then understand about the business needs. From there, you start building a product. So that is how you can make a very simple. The other most important thing is, you should always be, instead of really speculating for a long time. As an entrepreneur, your idea should not be to really speculate, for a very long time, whether I can do this or I can do that, can I do this? Or instead, you can think for a while. Definitely thinking helps, and then to make a decision. But you should always also start working on the real prototype and see how the reaction are. I mean, you make a small prototype, take it to a customer, show it to them, and understand whether they like it or not. Do not build the entire product. So develop a minimum viable product, which is, which solves some core problem, and show it to a customer and see whether the customer is excited to buy the product. And then only when they buy the product, you are going to really be, excited to actually make it even more robust, and then make it a complete product, so that it becomes successful. So if you spend a lot of money in completing the product and then taking it to the customer without customer interaction, if the customer does not like the product, then the product, all the efforts that you have put in will be wasted. So therefore, it is very important that you follow this model. So I think with this, I would like to really stop here, and I want to make it interactive from now on for next 15-20 minutes. I would like to hear from you all about questions that you have about the discussion that we had. I hope you are able to get some glimpse of how to go about in building a product, and then how to identify how to become a software entrepreneur. So there are lots of opportunities. The most important thing you should understand is, first of all, you should develop competence in one of the focused areas, and then go out and then check out where there is a need in the customer's place, and what kind of business you want to build, and learn about the business, and then refine your technology, make a prototype, take it to the customer, try it out in the market, and see how it works. Once you are successful there, I think then you can make the product even better. In order to make your product easily developed, you can go and approach incubators, which are set up in many places. Go to your department within your college, ask your professor, seek some help. And also, most importantly, as I also told you, develop a small team, couple of people, or three or more, 2 or 3 people among your friends in your college, or whoever is, and join together and start working. Because individual people are unable to, these days it's very tough for any one person to start the company and run around and do everything. As I told you, even investors prefer working with entrepreneurs who have a team of people who can support them and work with them. So with this, I would like to stop here, and then ask you for any questions or anything that you have, so that we can have some conversation and then clarify your questions and doubts. So one way, like you can put this in the chat box if you want, or I don't know, like Shaktivel, and how do people in YouTube, if they are watching, how do they ask questions? You have the channel tracking there also,
Yes,
or
sir. Yes, sir. They will post
so
their doubts on the YouTube chat section. I will
yeah,
share with you,
yeah,
sir.
you can share it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
please
yeah.
go ahead. Any questions, please? How many of you, like, is there anyone who is already decided to start a company on your own? And do you have any questions relating to that? Or you have any, doubts about, or require clarification on how to go about or anything? Don't worry. I mean, you can ask any questions. There's nothing like, silly question, or you don't have to worry about that. Even simple things, if you do not know, doesn't matter. You should ask these questions so that you can get some answers and understand, how to go about. This is one entrepreneurial character you all must develop, because first thing you must do is to, when you want to really start a company on work on big ideas, you are going to have lots of questions. So one of the things that you must do is not to hesitate asking for any clarification or doubt. Any chance you get to know something new, should be made use of immediately. Questions, please. Or at least, you can give me a feedback. Was it easy to understand? Did you follow what I said? Some of you, yes or no, you can comment on your chat boxes, so that it gives me an idea whether you guys have followed this or not. Type here. Shantwell, how many are watching? Count.
30 minutes.
Opening the YouTube.
Sir, one person asking like this.
Yes, ma. Like what? Any connection between stock market and starting a company? Now, yeah. So the idea of stock market in a simplest form, I would like to explain it. So stock market, let's say that, so somebody is asked
Sir,
about,
one person asking like this.
yes, stock market, no? Sorry, any connection between stock market and starting? That's what, no? Now, yeah. So the idea of stock market in a simplest. So let me give you an idea. So when I will also share this so that it is easy for people to understand how this, the whole idea of stock market works. So companies are started initially as small companies. Companies started, with a small capital. Usually, if you want to start a company, you invest some amount of money. Then what happens is your company goes and then does a successful work. Now the company wants to expand. Once it does a successful work, it wants to expand. When the company has to expand, it requires additional capital. And for additional capital, they need, additional capital is investment. So as a promoter, or as somebody who has initially invested that small amount, you may not be able to invest a lot of money, even though so your business seeming to be successful and it is proven that if the more investment is made in the company, it can even create higher return. Now what they do is the company is valued. Valued means, let's say you have started a company with investing 10 lakh rupees today. After 5 years, if the company is making 1 crore turnover, every year the company may be making on a 1 crore turnover 25% of net profit. So imagine 10 lakhs is the investment that you initially put, but whereas the company is really giving you 25 lakhs every year, which means the return on originally invested capital is something like 250%. Okay, so which is, if you go and invest the same 10 lakhs rupees in a bank, so banks give you only 10% return. So that is, like you put 1 lakh and 12 months after you get 1,10,000. So whereas in the company, imagine the return. So what they do is, the company is valued at the number of, there are different valuation method based on the return. They are going to arrive at the value of the company, and then they will say this company is worth maybe 10 crore. Now what they do is, when the company is valued at 10 crores based on valuation calculation, which is little complex, you can see it separately if you want. Now the company is valued at 10 crores. Now the 10% of the company is diluted, which means new shares are issued for people who are willing to invest in this company. So with 10 crore as a valuation, your 1 lakh will now become, something like 10 crore. The original 1 lakh rupees that you invested becomes 10 crore because your company has shown tremendous performance and it is making huge profits. Now this diluting of the 10% is normally done either to private investors or through what is called as a IPO, initial public offering, which means the stocks are going to be issued through a stock exchange following certain regulation process. So you have in India SEBI, Security Exchange Bureau of India. SEBI is the regulating agency. They have methods to analyze whether company can be permitted to list in stock market. When that is done, the 10% of share is listed in the market and people are buying at that market at what is called as at premium. So they are buying it at a premium. The 10 rupee share may not be sold at, maybe sold as say rupees 100. So I'm not giving the exact numbers, what is the valuation. So this is the idea. So what happens in stock market is, this is what is happening. So when you build a company, you build it with a small capital. That capital could be promoters and then some early venture capital investors and all that. Once the company becomes very successful, the company goes to raise another round of funding. So to raise that funding, they go to stock market and then issues the shares in the stock market, which is called initial public offering process. And it is always done at a premium, because it is creating more value. I told you, you invested only 10 lakhs, you are getting 25 lakhs profit every year, which means huge compared with what you get, with 1 lakh if you invest, you get only 10%. So this kind of phenomenal growth makes it attractive. So stock market works in this model of a future earning potential of a company is calculated in some way, and then based on that the valuation happens. So people go to stock market. This is how the stock market works. Have I cleared your doubt, that gentleman who has asked question? I hope others also could understand. I told you a very simple explanation, but this is slightly a complicated area to understand. But I think it is enough if you know this. But you can go always read about what is meant by public offering and how do shares get different values and all that. So that's a good question. So if you have a follow-up question, the same person, any correction between stock market, you can type it also. We'll try to address that. Sir, will there be scope for VR field in education? The second question, yes, there are possibility for VR, in education also. But as I told you, so VR technology is one part of it. The virtual reality technology is one part. If you want to go into education, you should know the education content. It is like if you're teaching biology, you must know biology to put it in VR context. Or if you're talking about, say, mechanical engineering, how the IC engines work and all that, then you should know about the IC engine content. So this is what I told you. What is the education market? What is the subject about which we are going to teach using VR? If you know only VR, that will not make complete business. Anything that you should apply. So for the application part of it, usually you must know the domain. So any other question or anything? Hello. Okay, I'm seeing I'm seeing a lot of questions probably. I think some comments in the YouTube. The responses no longer. Kindly send me the feedback. Okay, what are the form? Thank you so much, sir. Okay, I don't know, like there's not much comments. Okay, so these are the questions that was even found in YouTube links. Okay, so any other question or anything?
Dear participants, you can unmute yourself and ask your doubts. No issues.
Yeah, those of you who are in Zoom, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Yeah. Okay, Shaktivel, I think looks like
Yes, sir.
there is no questions. Hope it is useful. I think, any of you want any contact of mine also, you can reach out to Shaktivel so that, he can provide my contact to you all. You can get in touch with me. I wish you all the best. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm signing off.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear participants, so kindly fill the feedback form. Uh, the same. Um, I already sent the YouTube link to all. So the same link. You can use the same link for tomorrow session. Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much.